Welcome back to the Think and Speak podcast. Today's lesson is all about something every professional experiences, meeting conversations. Mr. Miller, why are meetings such an important topic for English learners?
Because meetings are where decisions are made, Emma. Whether it's a team update, a client presentation, or a strategy discussion, your ability to communicate clearly in meetings directly affects your professional success.
That's true. Many learners understand grammar, but they don't know how to interrupt politely, agree diplomatically, or present ideas confidently.
Exactly. Today, we'll teach practical phrases, useful structures, and modern expressions used in real business meetings. We'll cover formal language, discussion techniques, and professional vocabulary.
If you want to sound confident, natural, and persuasive in meetings, this lesson is essential.
Stay with us, take notes, and practice the phrases out loud.
And don't forget to like this video, comment with your biggest challenge in meetings, and subscribe for more powerful English lessons. Mr. Miller, let's begin with the fundamentals. Many English learners feel nervous at the beginning of a meeting because they don't know how to start speaking professionally. Could you explain how to open a meeting conversation clearly and confidently? What phrases are appropriate for greeting participants, introducing the agenda, and setting objectives? Also, could you explain the difference between formal and semi-formal language in this context? For example, what is the difference between saying "let's get started" and "we will now commence the meeting"? Please include useful sentence structures, modal verbs for politeness, and examples of present simple and future forms commonly used in meetings.
Excellent question, Emma. Opening a meeting effectively sets the tone for the entire discussion. Let's start with structure. A professional meeting opening usually includes greeting, purpose, agenda overview, time reference, greeting examples, formal, good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today's meeting. Semi-formal, hi everyone, thanks for joining. Grammar note. We often use the present continuous for arranged meetings. We are meeting today to discuss the new marketing strategy. Purpose statements. The purpose of today's meeting is to review our quarterly performance. We're here to discuss the upcoming product launch. Notice the use of the infinitive of purpose, to review, to discuss. Agenda introduction. First, we will look at last month's results. Then, we will move on to future planning. Here we use the future simple, will, to outline structure. Polite modal verbs. Could we begin with the sales report? May I start by summarizing the key points? Difference in tone. Let's get started. This is friendly and collaborative. Let's is a contraction of let us, used for suggestions. We will now commence the meeting. Very formal. Commence is a formal synonym of start. Professional example. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. The objective of today's meeting is to finalize the project timeline. We will begin by reviewing the current progress, and then we will address any concerns. By using structured language, modal verbs, and clear transitions, you demonstrate leadership and clarity.
Mr. Miller, during meetings, participants often need to express opinions, agree, disagree, or interrupt politely. Many learners worry about sounding rude or too direct. Could you explain how to express agreement and disagreement diplomatically? What phrases can professionals use to interrupt without being impolite? Also, could you include examples using modal verbs, hedging language, and discourse markers such as however, in my opinion, and from my perspective? Please provide structured examples that show both strong and soft disagreement in professional contexts.
His is essential for professional communication, Emma. Let's begin with expressing opinions. Neutral opinion. I think we should revise the budget. More formal. In my opinion, the budget requires adjustment. Notice the use of the modal verb, should, which expresses recommendation. Agreement phrases. I completely agree. That's a valid point. I share your perspective. Stronger agreement. I couldn't agree more. Disagreement requires diplomacy. Soft disagreement. I see your point, however, we may need to consider the financial risks. Notice. Discourse marker, however. Modal verb, may. Softening effect. Stronger disagreement. I'm afraid I disagree with that approach. Hedging language reduces directness. It seems that this strategy might be too expensive. Perhaps we could explore another option. Interrupting politely. Sorry to interrupt, but may I add something? Could I briefly comment on that? Grammar note. Modal verbs like could, may, and might create politeness and reduce force. Professional example. I understand your proposal, however, from my perspective, we should conduct further research before making a final decision. This sentence uses concession clause, I understand. Discourse marker, however. Opinion phrase, from my perspective. Modal verb, should. By mastering these structures, learners can participate confidently without sounding aggressive.
Mr. Miller, could you explain how to summarize and close a meeting effectively? Many professionals struggle to end discussions clearly and assign responsibilities. What phrases are used to summarize key points, confirm decisions, and outline next steps? Could you explain how future forms such as will and going to are used when assigning tasks? Also, please provide examples of formal closing statements and follow-up expressions that professionals use in emails after meetings.
Closing a meeting properly is just as important as opening it. A strong closing includes summary, decisions, action items, appreciation, summarizing phrases. To summarize, we have agreed to launch the campaign in June. Let me briefly recap the main points. Notice the present perfect, have agreed, to highlight completed decisions. Confirming responsibilities. John will prepare the financial report. Sarah is going to contact the client. Difference. Will often expresses decision at the moment. Going to suggests prior plan or intention. Example. We will schedule a follow-up meeting next week. We are going to review the results before Friday. Assigning tasks clearly. Could you send the revised proposal by Thursday? Please ensure that the report is completed by Monday. Here we see polite request with modal verb. Passive voice is completed. Formal closing. If there are no further questions, we will conclude today's meeting. Thank you all for your valuable contributions. Follow-up email example. Dear team, as discussed in today's meeting, we will finalize the marketing plan by Friday. John will update the budget forecast, and Sarah is going to coordinate with the design team. This combines past reference, as discussed, future commitments, clear structure. Mastering meeting conversations allows professionals to communicate with clarity, authority, and confidence in any business environment.
Mr. Miller, in modern workplaces, many meetings are now virtual rather than face-to-face. Could you explain how meeting conversations change in online settings such as Zoom or Microsoft Teams? Many learners struggle with technical interruptions, turn-taking, and maintaining professional language in virtual environments. What phrases can we use when the audio is unclear, when someone is speaking over another person, or when we need to clarify a point? Also, could you explain how tone and formality may shift in online meetings compared to traditional in-person meetings? Please include examples of polite requests, conditional sentences, and useful discourse markers that professionals can use to manage online discussions effectively.
That is extremely relevant in today's digital world, Emma. Virtual meetings require additional communication strategies because participants rely heavily on clear verbal signals. First, let's discuss technical clarification. If the audio is unclear, you can say, "I'm sorry, your audio is breaking up. Could you please repeat that? I didn't quite catch the last point." Notice the use of modal verbs such as could, which soften the request and maintain professionalism. When two people speak at the same time, please go ahead. Sorry, you first. I believe John was speaking. These phrases help manage turn-taking, which is essential in virtual communication. To clarify information. Just to clarify, are we moving the deadline to Friday? So, if I understand correctly, the proposal needs revision. Here we see the use of a conditional clause. If I understand correctly. This structure signals polite verification. Tone differences. Online meetings are often slightly less formal, especially in internal team discussions. For example, in-person formal. May I interject? Online semi-formal. Sorry to jump in. However, with clients, formal language is still recommended. Could we revisit that point? Would it be possible to review the figures once more? Using discourse markers improves clarity. Firstly, moving on. Regarding your previous comment. On that note, professional example. Regarding the marketing update, I'd like to add that we have increased engagement by 15%. If everyone agrees, we will proceed with the new strategy. This sentence uses discourse marker regarding, conditional clause, future form. Mastering these phrases ensures clarity, confidence, and professionalism in virtual meetings.
Mr. Miller, sometimes meetings become challenging when there is conflict or disagreement between team members. How can professionals manage conflict diplomatically in English? What language should be used to de-escalate tension and maintain a constructive atmosphere? Could you explain how passive voice, indirect language, and problem-solving expressions can help reduce blame? Please include examples of conflict resolution phrases and explain how grammar choices influence tone and professionalism in sensitive discussions.
Conflict management is one of the most advanced communication skills, Emma. The key principle is to focus on the issue, not the person. Instead of saying, "You made a mistake," use passive voice. A mistake appears to have been made. Notice how the passive structure removes direct blame. Indirect language also softens criticism. It seems that there may have been a misunderstanding. We might need to reassess the timeline. Modal verbs such as may, might, and could reduce confrontation. De-escalation phrases. I understand your concern. That's a valid perspective. Let's find a solution that works for everyone. Grammar plays a major role in tone. Direct. You are wrong. Professional alternative. I see it differently. I'm not sure I fully agree. Problem-solving language. What would you suggest as an alternative? How can we improve this process moving forward? Notice the use of open-ended questions, which encourage collaboration. Conditional language is also helpful. If we adjust the deadline, we might achieve better results. If we reconsider the budget, we could reduce risk. These are second conditional structures, expressing possibility. Professional example. I understand that the delay has caused frustration. However, from a broader perspective, we may need to analyze the root cause before assigning responsibility. This sentence includes empathy statement, discourse marker, however, modal verb, may, formal vocabulary. Another useful strategy is reframing. Instead of, this project failed, the project did not achieve its expected outcome. This neutral phrasing maintains professionalism. In conclusion, managing conflict in meetings requires passive voice, modal verbs, indirect language, constructive questions, calm tone. By choosing grammar carefully, professionals can transform tension into productive discussion and demonstrate leadership maturity.
Mr. Miller, in many meetings, professionals are expected to present data, reports, or project updates. However, many English learners struggle with describing numbers, trends, and results clearly. Could you explain how to talk about statistics and performance in meetings using accurate grammar and professional vocabulary? For example, how should we describe increases, decreases, comparisons, and projections? Please include examples using the present perfect, past simple, comparative structures, and future forms. It would also be helpful if you explained how to structure a short performance update logically so that it sounds clear, confident, and well-organized in a business setting. Mr. Miller, sometimes meetings require persuasive communication, especially when proposing new ideas or convincing others to accept a strategy. How can English learners structure persuasive arguments effectively in meetings? What language should they use to present proposals, justify decisions, and respond to objections? Could you explain how linking words, modal verbs of recommendation, and rhetorical techniques help strengthen arguments? Please include examples of persuasive phrases and explain how grammar choices influence credibility and authority in professional discussions.
Persuasion in meetings is both a linguistic and strategic skill, Emma. A persuasive argument generally follows this structure: clear proposal, supporting reasons, evidence, anticipation of objections, conclusion. Let us begin with making a proposal. I would like to propose a new marketing strategy. I suggest that we invest in digital advertising. Notice the use of would like to, polite and formal. Suggest that plus subject plus base verb, subjunctive form. Example: I suggest that the company expand its online presence. Now, providing reasons. This approach will increase brand visibility. One key advantage is that it reduces long-term costs. Linking words improve coherence. Firstly, furthermore, in addition, therefore, as a result. Modal verbs strengthen recommendations. We should consider revising the pricing model. We ought to focus on customer retention. We must address this issue immediately. Strong obligation. Responding to objections diplomatically. I understand your concern, however, the data indicates positive growth. That is a valid point, but we may need to examine the long-term benefits. Notice: concession clause, I understand. Discourse marker, however. Modal verb, may. Persuasive example. I would like to propose implementing a hybrid work model. Firstly, it has been shown to improve productivity. Furthermore, employee satisfaction has increased significantly in companies that adopted this system. While there may be concerns about communication, we can address this by scheduling regular team meetings. Therefore, I strongly recommend that we pilot this strategy next quarter. Grammar features used. Present perfect has increased. Modal verbs, may, can. Recommendation verbs, recommend. Cohesive devices, firstly, furthermore, therefore. Persuasive communication depends on logical structure, clear transitions, balanced tone, appropriate modal verbs. When learners control these grammar tools, they sound confident, credible, and influential in professional meeting conversations.